Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
This week, Senate Tax Chair Ann Rest talks about taxes and artificial intelligence. Senator Jeremy Miller renews his effort to legalize sports betting, and lawmakers grapple with how to get school resource officers back in school. Stay tuned for this and more on this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. It was a sweet and bipartisan start to the 2024 legislative session, initiated by Governor Tim Walz sharing homemade apple blondies with lawmakers. Upon finding a still empty Senate chamber, Governor Walz found more success in the House.
There we go.
Thank you, Governor.
You are welcome. Anybody? Apple blondie?
Do I look like I ate some? Absolutely.
And in the Senate chamber, Senate leaders spoke of working together.
Senator Murphy, congratulations. I look forward to working together in a bipartisan manner with you. I have a lot of high hopes for our relationship and the work that we can do here in the Senate, the work that people of Minnesota ask us to do in a bipartisan manner.
Leader Johnson, I look forward to building that strong, earnest, open working relationship with you and with the members of your caucus and with the members of this body.
And hours later, staked out their positions as the 2024 session gets underway.
The Capitol is a place to hear rumors, and as usual, the place is full of rumors. And one of them that I am hearing a little bit of is that this is a session where we won't have to do a lot of work because we did so much last session. And I want to be really crystal clear with the people of Minnesota that we are here to do the work of the people of Minnesota, that we raised our hand, we asked to run for office, and we know that it is our job to show up every day, to show Minnesotans that we hear them, we know what they're contending with, and we're ready to do that work. We passed a powerful agenda last session, we did, but that doesn't mean we've run out of good ideas. That doesn't mean that Minnesotans aren't still contending with the cost of childcare, the lack of access to health care, the rent is sometimes too high, food insecurity, et cetera. We recognize that Minnesotans are struggling, and so therefore we know that we have more work to do.
Things are going to get a lot more interesting going forward based on the agenda that the Democrats have, but then also the work that Senate Republicans are doing on repairing a lot of the damage that was done last session when we saw the trifecta and the extreme pace that they went forward. And we are really working hard as a team to address those needs, point them out, and show some of the issues that we have. They had $17.5 billion of surplus last year. Democrats did. They spent that. They raised taxes by $10 billion. They spent that, and we're looking at a budget deficit going forward. So they're going to really have to scrape to try to figure out ways to prioritize everything that they want to prioritize.
The Senate Tax Chair is one of the most powerful positions in the Senate because the chair decides which proposals will come before the committee for consideration. Regarding significant new spending or tax increases for the 2024 session, Senator Ann Rest, the Tax Chair, has offered a one-word answer: no. She joins me to talk about that, about artificial intelligence, and more. Thank you so much for being here.
You're absolutely welcome.
Your one-word answer made the news. Granted, a new budget and economic forecast is yet on the horizon, but the November forecast said that the 26-27 biennium could be in fiscal trouble. How concerned are you, and is that why you're lowering expectations on any new spending for this session?
The answer is absolutely yes. We have, in the past, gotten ourselves into trouble with real deficits by not, in my mind, by not paying attention to the signs of uncertainty that that we receive in a budget forecast. The November one, was over $2 billion, but we established, I think, just generally from the governor on down, that we wanted another significant capital investment bill, and that there were other there were other needs, some adjustings of some healthcare formulas, and also providing programs that relieved some of the burden or the overburden of middle-income families for child care, which we have the child tax credit, which is helpful for lower income and lower middle income families, but we need to concentrate on those families with two earners that struggle to meet legitimate child care costs. So lower expectations, absolutely, and new taxes, no.
On the opening day of session, the House took up a bill that would fix an inadvertent error in the 2023 tax law that, if not changed, would increase taxes for a majority of Minnesota filers who take a standard deduction beginning next year. Your committee is also working on that issue. Is this an easy fix?
It is the correct fix. We made two mistakes that had a fiscal impact, money impact on in the tax bill, and we should fix both of them. It's been the tradition when mistakes were made in tax bills and they were discovered, that the tax chairs would write a letter saying, as soon as possible, we will fix those mistakes. And the bill that we had today in committee that we passed to the floor fixes one of them, which is considerable. I mean, it's over between $300 and $400 million. But we did not fix the other's mistake, which was a simple one of getting the year right that a tax was going to be effective. So that's upsetting that one mistake was corrected and supported by the administration, and the other mistake was characterized as spending rather than tax savings.
Do you have plans to fix this other mistake?
Well, Representative Liz Lagarde is taking the lead in the House to introduce a separate bill, so it won't be in the one that is going to the floor in both bodies soon, to have a separate hearing on that. And I'm the chief author in the Senate, and we're going to be working together to see that mistake is also corrected, so that it does not result in an extra $15 million of taxes on our Minnesota businesses. And
it's mostly small businesses that would take that hit?
Well, any business that has a net operating loss, which happens, and then they get better, and then they're able to use that portions of that net operating loss going forward to smooth out their income. There are big businesses, there are small businesses that would be Main Street businesses, as well as big businesses that would be affected by it.
So we'll watch for that. Senate Republican leader Mark Johnson was asked earlier this week whether the Republican caucus would push for a full income tax subtraction on Social Security benefits for Minnesota beneficiaries. He indicated that they would if the state could afford it. The 2023 tax law raised income limits so that an estimated 76% of Minnesotans will not pay taxes on Social Security income. Because of that law change in 2023, is the matter settled for you, or is there room for more?
I think it's again a matter of the timing. We produced tax savings for those people that relied on Social Security, and also pensioners, public pensioners that do not get Social Security. We improved their situation greatly to get to the 76%. But we don't have those kinds of resources to take it a step further right now. Sometime in the future, maybe, but I agree with Senator Johnson. We don't have the resources, and we're going to be adamant, however, about keeping the tax savings that we produced in the 2023 bill for seniors.
And now for a subject I know you're excited to talk about. In the first Senate tax hearing of the 2024 session, you had a discussion on artificial intelligence. We read about it more and more and how this latest technology is impacting both jobs and the economy, potentially. What made you want to start the session with this discussion?
Well, I started becoming interested in artificial intelligence, just like a lot of other people, seeing so many articles in the newspaper or on TV, and the action from the White House on an executive order on it, and then the work that's being done by Minnesota Minute and the Technology Advisory Council that has a subcommittee on artificial intelligence and how it can be used not just to catch the bad guys that we all want to have happen, but how can we maximize and optimize the opportunities for our employees and ourselves to make sure that we can use artificial intelligence, which actually is kind of a misnomer, but nevertheless, artificial intelligence to become more efficient in our work, and legislators need that as much as anybody. Effective and efficacious, meaning that we can get it to work after we understand it and get trained in it. And Minute had produced a document for policy guiding state employees, but now we need to also look at, and we used their testimony and presentation today, both them and the people on the TAC, the Technology Advisory Council, to I think begin exploring how we can bring that to the legislature, to other constitutional officers, maybe even looking at doing it in the judiciary. So I'm very excited to begin that discussion locally and not just nationally, and to improve the work product and the job satisfaction of Minnesota government employees.
Senator Anrest, it is always a pleasure. Thank you. Resolving the 2023 law change that prompted some law enforcement agencies to remove school resource officers from schools prompted spirited debate in the Senate Education Policy Committee.
The bill has to bring all the officers back to schools. And the respectful amendments we brought, except the whole undoing of the thing, which I appreciate you didn't want that one. But keep listening. And because some of those groups don't feel like they're being listened to. They feel like they have not been listened to, which is why I brought my amendment, because they're very insecure about some of that. And in the precarious place a lot of these law enforcement people find themselves, being judged by other people who have done things that they should not have done. And in their own forces, they're exemplary and impeccable. You want them back protecting us.
This is not just a concern from law enforcement. They've come forward about it. County sheriffs have come forward about it. County governments have come forward. City governments, school districts, parents, kids. There's a lot of folks out there that have requested that we make a change to the law that was passed last year. I appreciate the effort that's being made here today, but I don't think it quite meets the threshold of what they're looking for.
I've seen this play out before, and I am terrified for what's going to happen. Because how it played out in my district, Mr. Chair, is our students cowering in their classroom for 45 minutes as their SRO had to wait to get physically assaulted before they could do anything. And if this bill does not get improved on its way to the floor, I think that we're going to be right back where we started.
What I don't appreciate about this conversation that's been happening here today is that setting standards for how adults treat children in school is somehow making kids unsafe, because it's not. The willful misinterpretation of law has done that, and I'm really hoping that we can get this clarification, because what was uplifted through that confusion is that there weren't any standards.
I had no idea there were this many different varying definitions of imminent and reasonable and restraint and shall versus must and or and to until this bill came forward.
This is about all of the people who have worked and touched this work really deeply listening to everybody who came to us with their feedback and their suggestions, and from that work, crafting a bill that I actually believe is a good piece of work.
With the Super Bowl in the rearview mirror, where a reported 68 million adults place bets, according to the American Gaming Association, Minnesota remains an island of non-betting. Senator Jeremy Miller has unveiled a new and improved effort to legalize sports betting in Minnesota, and he joins me now in the studio. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
According to a KSTP-TV Survey USA poll conducted in late January, 55% of Minnesotans want sports betting to become legal in Minnesota, as it is in 38 other states, Puerto Rico, and Washington, D.C. This bill is your second effort, and over the past few years, there have been a handful of proposals by both DFLers and Republicans. What's holding it up here in Minnesota?
Well, what I'm trying to accomplish with the Minnesota Sports Betting Act 2.0 is really bringing together the stakeholders, bringing together legislators on both sides of the aisle to ultimately legalize sports betting here in Minnesota. It's one of the issues that I hear about most from the constituents I represent in southeastern Minnesota and folks all across the state of Minnesota. And I think it's time to get it done, and I'm hoping that this proposal will help get us there.
You live in Winona on the Mississippi River. Across the river is Wisconsin, which does have legalized sports betting. Your constituents basically do have more access to sports betting than people in other parts of the state because of the proximity to Wisconsin and possibly Iowa. Anecdotally, how many of your constituents are going elsewhere to bet?
Well, it's an interesting question because the legislative district that I have the honor of representing borders both Wisconsin and Iowa, both states, of course, that have legalized sports betting, a little bit different in each state. But what I'm finding and what I'm hearing from constituents is most of them are actually going to Iowa because Iowa has legalized mobile sports betting, and all you have to do is cross the border. So they can literally drive into the state of Iowa and they can place a bet on their mobile device, and then they can drive back to Minnesota. So sports betting is happening in Minnesota, or Minnesotans are betting on sports. They're either doing it in other states or they're doing it illegally. So by legalizing sports betting, not only will we help regulate the market, but the state would also benefit from the sales tax revenue that's generated off of sports betting.
Your bill would provide licensing opportunities for Minnesota's 11 tribal nations for retail and mobile sports betting. Your bill would also allow non-tribal license holders to operate retail betting at horse tracks and at professional sports stadiums with proper partnership agreements. Why this approach?
So my preference and proposals that I've offered in the past would give sports betting licenses to the tribes, the horse racing tracks, as well as the professional sports teams, and I would even like to see the charities get a license. The reality is the votes are not there right now in the legislature to pass a proposal like that. So what I was really trying to craft with this is what type of proposal can we put forward that'll bring together stakeholders and bring together legislators on both sides of the aisle to ultimately get it done for our most important stakeholder, and that's the people of Minnesota. So what I'm trying to accomplish with this proposal is focusing on what's possible rather than sitting back and complaining about what's not possible. And I really think that the 2.0 proposal is something that can get buy-in from the stakeholders as well as bipartisan support to get it done for the people of Minnesota that want to bet on sports.
And you've been talking about this for about a month. So are you having conversations with lawmakers from both sides? Like, are you getting bipartisan buy-in at this point?
Yeah, we've had a lot of good conversations. I think the proposal that I put out helped jumpstart or re-engage the stakeholders. And ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to put a proposal out there that would benefit the tribes, but also benefit the tracks as well as the charities and other folks that have some sort of involvement with existing gambling in Minnesota or sports betting in general. So I'm trying to put forward a proposal that everybody gets a piece of the action, and I believe that this is a proposal that can get it done.
Another aspect of the bill is that it dedicates a portion of the tax proceeds to be used for charitable gaming tax relief for local charities, to attract major sporting events to the state, to boost horse racing, to support youth sports and young athletes, and then also to help problem gamblers. from what I read, the resources would come from a 15% tax rate on sports betting. Is that tax on everybody then who's doing it, both the tribes and non-tribal interests? And then would that revenue be split evenly in terms of who gets it, or is that yet to be determined?
So the vast majority of the sales tax revenue would be generated off of the mobile sports betting, which is where most of the betting takes place. And I think it's really important to note the great work that our charities do in communities across the state of Minnesota. Those that participate in charitable gambling play a significant role for a number of different nonprofit organizations all across the state of Minnesota. So I thought it was really important for them to be involved in this proposal, and a lot of times those charities end up paying more in taxes than they do in giving out money to other local charities in communities across the state. So I thought it was important that we lowered the tax rate on those charities so they can ultimately help support our communities more, and that's why I have charities as a big part of this proposal. And then the other important piece that I'm very, very passionate about is let's attract some more major sports and events to Minnesota. And we have an organization here in Minnesota called Minnesota Sports and Events that's doing a really nice job of doing that. So I thought it would make complete sense for us to have a portion of the revenue that's generated from sports betting go to help attract some of these major sporting events to Minnesota.
The Senate Finance Committee will be the final stop for a bill like this before it can get to the Senate floor. The chair of that committee, Senator John Marty, released the following statement, quote, "There has been significant debate over who should profit from sports betting. However, there has been far too little debate about the human and societal costs that would result from the largest expansion of gambling in Minnesota history." Does your proposal offer enough support for problem gamblers?
So a portion of the proceeds, the sales tax proceeds, would go to help support programs for folks that struggle with problem gambling and provide services to those folks. It's something that I'm very sympathetic about, but the reality is gambling is already going on in Minnesota. Sports betting is already going on in Minnesota. It's just Minnesotans that are doing it. They're doing it in other states, or they're doing it illegally. So it's something that's already happening. I'm very sympathetic to Senator Marty's comments and look forward to working together with him. But yes, there are resources in the proposal that I put forward to help provide services to folks that struggle with problem gambling.
This bill would also reverse changes in the 2023 tax bill that are expected to impact electronic pull tabs beginning in 2025. The law change will eliminate free plays and bonus games from e-pull tabs, which Native American casino owners and some lawmakers have argued are too similar to slot machines. It's worth noting the e-pull tabs generated $1.9 billion in 2022, according to the Minnesota Gambling Control Board. And those proceeds benefit nonprofits that support disability services, food shelves, veteran services, volunteer fire departments, and youth sports. How would legalized sports betting impact e-pull tabs and charitable gambling?
So the 2.0 proposal that I put forward would actually restore some of those functions that were eliminated in last year's legislative session, and I've heard from charities all across the state of Minnesota that they're very concerned about some of those changes and that it could potentially significantly reduce the amount that people pay electronic pull tabs, therefore reduce the amount that these charities are able to provide support in their communities. So in working with the charities, they felt that it would be important to have this discussion again this year because, again, they were very disappointed and very concerned about some of the changes that were made during the last legislative session. So I will continue to support charities. I'm a strong advocate for our charities, and that will not change, and we'll continue to support our charities all across the state.
Senator Jeremy Miller, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Lawmakers and advocates have held numerous press conferences to outline their priorities for the 2024 session.
Our legislative initiatives seek to provide workforce, housing, and educational support to families and individuals who are relocating to Minnesota. We must ensure that gender-affirming care is available to all who need it and free of institutional transphobia, homophobia, and other barriers to access. We must do everything we can to make sure that our communities are free of bullying, harassment, violence, and discrimination at home, at work, and at school. And we must ensure that trans people are afforded a full and equal access to protections in perpetuity, which is why we must pass a fully inclusive Equal Rights Amendment this year.
We know that people are experiencing infertility, and there are medical services available to them to treat it. It is a disease for some people like anything else, and health insurance should cover it, plain and simple, public and private. And so you see behind us all of the support to pass this bill, joining 21 other states who have passed similar legislation so that Minnesota can truly become the best state to have and raise your family.
We know that infertility is a recognized medical condition. Like cancer, we know it exists. Like diabetes, we know how to treat it. But unlike these diseases, hardworking Minnesotans don't have access to the insurance that they need when they're diagnosed with infertility. And so 1 in 7 Minnesota couples have to struggle to get pregnant or sustain their pregnancy. That's, again, about 186,000 Minnesotans.
Credit card debt to buy a television is one thing. Debt because you had a heart attack or were hit by a car or have an illness is an entirely different thing. And the idea that we're charging massive interest on that we're putting it to the credit bureau and we're destroying lives over it makes absolutely no sense. It does not help the healthcare system. It certainly doesn't help Minnesotans.
As a registered nurse, I interact with patients and their loved ones on nearly a daily basis. Medical bills and debt should be the last thing on their minds as they try to heal. But too often, for too many people, the thought of having their savings drained weighs heavily.
North Star Act is both about our values as Minnesotans and is also a highly technical bill designed to create clarity and to ensure that we invest state and local resources toward the betterment of Minnesotans, rather than wasting them enforcing our broken federal immigration laws. The North Star Act says that Minnesota does not terrorize its residents. Minnesota does not waste precious public dollars enforcing broken federal immigration laws. Minnesota is a place where immigrants will have opportunity to contribute to our communities, to our economy, and to their families. In terms of the technical aspects of the bill, it prohibits collaboration and data sharing between state and local government entities and the federal government for the sole purpose of civil immigration enforcement. It explicitly permits other types of collaboration for purposes of public safety and where federal law requires it.
Minnesota has a long history of welcoming new Americans to our communities, and our state is better off because of it. Today, non-citizen residents operate cherished local businesses, contribute to every step of our food system, from harvesting crops to processing meat, cooking in restaurants to delivering meals. They care for our children, the sick and elderly, and they build houses and hospitals.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.